Welcome to the Reddit Chronicles. Today we will be reading from Petty Revenge. Our first post is by Controversial Jelly. How my girlfriend exposed a cheater and helped a friend with her own pregnancy test. This is fairly recent, so I haven't seen the full fallout yet. I'll edit and update as I hear more. My girlfriend and love of my life has a friend. We'll call her Sarah. Sarah's great, kind-hearted, trusting, bubbly. A few months ago, Sarah began dating an asshole I'll call Mark. Mark isn't great. We hung out as couples a few times, and Mark seemed great on the outside, but my girlfriend had a bad feeling about him. She said he reminded her of a snake charmer, always saying just the right thing, and she didn't trust him. But Sarah seemed happy, so live and let live. Sarah's devotion to Mark seemed to grow intensely and quickly. Then Sarah had a pregnancy scare, and things turned dark. My girlfriend is currently pregnant with our first, and I am ecstatic, but terrified. Mark was not ecstatic. His true colors began to emerge, and more than once Sarah spent the night here with my girlfriend in a tub of Ben & Jerry's. It was sad. Apparently first Mark didn't believe it was his, then he demanded an abortion. Finally he fessed up. You probably guessed this already. Mark is married with kids. There's no trucking job that keeps him away for days at a time. Sarah was devastated. She genuinely believed she was in a loving, monogamous relationship. It was a chemical pregnancy, and less than a week later she messaged Mark with the news. For about 2 weeks Sarah near enough lived with us, which was hard, but not as hard as seeing my girlfriend see the with rage over what Mark did. My girlfriend, love her, decided that Mark needed to face the consequences of his actions. She took it upon herself to conduct some thorough internet sleuthing, and discovered that Mark had been leading a double life, dating multiple women simultaneously, while still married to his unsuspecting wife. Sarah was just one of many, which made my girlfriend even madder. My girlfriend kept digging and managed to find Mark's home address. It wasn't even that hard. The idiot had a Facebook page with his real name, which was really similar to the name he'd been using. If he was calling himself Mark Evans, his real name was Mad Evans. It was comical how badly he'd been covering his tracks. On his Facebook page, he'd sold something and shared his home address publicly. It's been over a month now. Sarah's mostly doing better. In an act of poetic justice, my girlfriend sent one of her own pregnancy tests to Mr. and Mrs. Evans with a note that gave him no way out. Tell her or I will. The only other thing on the note was the number he'd been using when dating Sarah, and his IG handle. Wouldn't you know it, but my girlfriend had me deliver it through their letterbox after Mark had gone out. I insisted that if she was going to follow through, she wasn't to get physically close to Mark. This was only a few days ago. Sarah said Mark's messaged saying he made a mistake and wants to stay with her to work on the relationship. So my guess is he got kicked out. Sarah was thrilled getting to tell him to go F himself. Our next post is by Tiny Cow Z. My stepmother gets her just desserts after my father passed. My stepmother married my dad 10 years ago when I was 35. From the start, she was awful. She would listen in on every phone call. We didn't find that out for years. She made sure he didn't see my kids, his grandkids anymore, just hers. He wasn't allowed to see us either. Plans were made by him and canceled by her. The worst part is when he was very sick with cancer, she refused point blank to keep us updated on his health. She told us in a group text that we were too mean to her, so we didn't get the information. How were we mean? We didn't send her cards and flowers on Mother's Day. Sometimes he would call me because she forgot to take his phone away from him after he was so ill and couldn't get out of bed to retrieve it. She didn't even tell us he passed for 3 days after. She wanted to make sure we couldn't make the funeral so she could talk badly about us. She wrote the obituary and spelled all his bio family's names wrong and listed all her kids and grandkids as bonus children and left out information like his parents' and siblings' names. She was a horrible person. I knew that there was an insurance policy for me and my siblings to split. It wasn't even that big. But she was so mad that we got anything at all that she refused to give us the policy paperwork or give us his social security number so we could look it up ourselves. She claimed we would just use it to open credit cards even though the government and credit agencies had his death certificate. She told us we didn't deserve anything at all, and she was mad that he didn't leave the policy to her kids instead. So, having her phone number, address, and email, I signed her up for everything. MLMs, religious calls, window and roof replacements, things like AliExpress offer emails, vacation entries that just sell your name to everyone. My daughter even helped me find new things to sign her up to so we could ramp up the spam. I heard that she was forced to change her phone number because it was so bad. Serves her right, I regret nothing. Oh, there was in fact a policy and we did get it thanks to my mother keeping some old tax returns. I made sure to send my stepmother a screenshot of the policy payout. Last name drama? We will just change it. So me and my fiance have been together for 8 years, engaged for 2. His family is old school, that's the best I can explain it. Since we've been engaged, his entire family has been up our butts to have a kid. We have chosen to be child-free due to health and mental health issues in both of our families that we don't want to pass on to a child. We have talked about adopting way down the road. However, his family has thrown a fit as an adopted child isn't the same since they don't have the Doe bloodline and wouldn't be a true Doe. Fake last name. I never want to be pregnant. I hate even thinking of it. But his family keeps pushing. The reason they're so dead set on this is because if he doesn't have a child, his family name ends with him and I, and they don't want that to happen. Well, they aren't dropping it, and we aren't having a kid to continue his lineage. Since they aren't dropping it though, and my fiance and I want to get married in the next few years, he has decided he wants to take my last name. Then, even if we changed our minds and had a child, his family name still wouldn't go on. We of course won't tell them this. There's so much family drama, we don't even plan on having a wedding. Our next post is by Valdev. Deny my ability to use my backyard when my dog is dying. Alright, you'll no longer be able to enjoy yours. A couple months ago, our lovely older pit bull was fighting cancer, and we had the painful decision made to have her put down. She was low on energy at this point. Moving was difficult, and getting her to eat was getting near impossible. With that, one of the only things we wanted to give her was one last day outside in the backyard. So, the day before she was to be put to sleep, in the early morning I set out to set up a tent in our backyard and filled it inside and outside with things our dog absolutely loved. I noticed as I was setting things up, the neighbor behind us was placing sticks and leaves in their fire pit, which normally I wouldn't care at all, but the poor dog is having trouble breathing at this point. I figured it wouldn't be an imposition to let them know my current situation and asked if they could postpone the burning just for today. The wife let me know that they are just going to be burning a few things to clear their yard and it won't last very long at all, and she gave me some level of understanding about the dog. With that, she lit up the fire and the smoke billowed into my backyard. For some context, the neighbor is directly behind my property. I have about a 100 feet by 100 feet backyard, and theirs is about 50 feet long by 100 feet wide. Just to add this, I don't mind if people are burning things around me. I am not particularly fond of it, but if it makes them happy, that makes me happy. A few hours go by, I notice they are still outside adding more things to the fire. I approach and ask them kindly on an ETA, trying to be as patient and understanding as possible. They say they are almost done. A few hours later, there is a raging fire outside, and I can visibly see the husband outside pointing at my home, yelling, and then adding actual campfire logs, no longer leaves and sticks. At this moment, I'm not angry. I am just very sad. Poor dog isn't going to have the last day we wanted to give her. We would take her somewhere else, but don't want to stress her, so we spend the rest of the day inside. Later that night, around 9 p.m. as the sun is setting, I go out for a walk and notice the fire is still roaring. Mind you, as it was most of the time with no one there. At this moment, I am now pissed off and start looking into state laws, city laws, and everything in between. From this, I find out that my city has an ordinance that clearly states a fire pit cannot be within 50 feet of a structure. I could, if I wanted, to contact the city and have it stopped simply because no matter where they place it in their backyard, it will be within 50 feet of their home. But that seems non-permanent enough. I was already considering getting a fence installed and already had multiple quotes. It was hard to swallow a bill for $15,000. But within 24 hours of this situation, guess what I paid for? The fence will be installed within the next couple weeks around the edge of my property, and their fire pit is no further away than 10 feet from my fence. Can't take a single day away from your fire pit for a dying dog? Well, enjoy never using it ever again. Thank you for listening to the Reddit Chronicles. Follow for more content.